Unless the Energy Independence and Security Act is repealed, 50 miles per gallon cars will be thick on the streets in a decade. If you find this notion depressing, take solace in the Dodge Charger SRT Hellcat's ability to bring e-drink premium fuel. Stomp the throttle as if you own a private pipeline, and this hellion can burn 1.5 gallons of high test in a minute flat. Texans with the pumps and space to indulge such pleasures can suck this car's tank dry in the time it takes to read this article. Other Hellcat stats are equally astonishing. This is the first American sedan armed with 707 horsepower. See the maddest motor on page 2. The one German Ford's all capable of beating it to 60 miles per hour, the Porsche Panamera Turbo S, costs nearly 3 times the Charger's $64,990 base price and falls shy of the Dodge's claimed 204 miles per hour top speed. Massive Brembo brakes and 20-inch Billy gumballs make this family hauler much more than a straight-line special. With pump prices dipping below $3 a gallon and the Saudis discounting crude to thwart the fracking tide, the supercharger arrives at an opportune moment. Designed in Michigan, assembled in Canada, and powered by a Mexican-made engine, it's a poster child for NAFTA pragmatism. Also thank Fiat Chrysler boss Sergio Marchionne, who waved a figurative arrivederci to Ferrari with one hand while welcoming the Challenger and Charger Hellcats to the menagerie with the other. No rocket science was needed to spunk GM and Ford. The pushed V8, wearing one of the engine world's most revered nameplates, first appeared in 2003 round pickups, albeit minus the actual hemispherical combustion chambers of yore. The Charger's chassis parts were handed down by Mercedes a decade ago during the ill-fated Daimler-Chrysler lash-up. This year's nicely rendered facelift replaces the stale gunsight grille with 7 air inlet and outlet ports. Sinister headlamps, growling cat badges, and a manly pair of pipes are also new. Children cower at the sound of a blown Hemi starting. At full throttle, its supercharged whine and exhaust howl carry for miles. During cruising, the mighty engine murmurs barely audible bass notes, its tailpipes restricted by computer-controlled butterfly valves. Pity the Hellcat's 27540ZR20 tires futilely attempting to put down more than 8,000 pound-feet of torque, 650 pound-feet at 4,800 revolutions per minute from the engine multiplied by 12.34 through the driveline in first gear. Pirelli's stock rises a notch every time a driver lights the smoke grenades under the rear fenders. Thanks to a hair-trigger throttle, remedial right-foot reprogramming is essential to in-town puttering. Mashing the gas to pass will snap the traction at 40 miles per hour on dry pavement, or as high as 80 in the wet. In the hands of a driver lacking respect for what was once known as war emergency power, the Charger SRT Hellcat is the loosest of all road cannons. But in capable hands, it will thrill and amaze. To wring Chevy Corvette Z06 acceleration from this 4,592 pound sedan, we disabled the stability controls, warmed the rear tires, set the transmission to track mode, placed the dampers in sport mode, and squeezed the throttle pedal with due deliberation. The tires bite in 1.6 seconds, the time it takes to reach 30 miles per hour. Then yowl again during the 12 shift at 40. What sounds like shredding titanium is the engine protesting the momentary power reductions accompanying each upshift. What feels like teleportation flings you to 60 in 3.4 seconds and to 128 miles per hour in a quarter mile. From rest to 170, the hairy Hemi posts an average 0.34 grams of acceleration. Pleasure receptors think they've been treated to great sex, a tasty sirloin, and Dutch chocolate ice cream, all at once. Exemplary braking and cornering performance are also part of the deal. Massive Brembo 6-piston front and 4-piston rear calipers grabbing toe-piece rotors halt this car from 70 miles per hour in 153 feet, averaging 1.07 grams s, with virtually no fade. Biley P0 rubber stuck the Hellcat to a skid pad at 0.94 grams. While there's some understeer at the limit, that's really no issue when the lightest brush of the accelerator will step and hold the tail out as wide as you like for as long as you deem appropriate. The steering is heavy during parking maneuvers, but, once you're rolling, the extra effort falls in sync with the quick ratio. Actual nuances of road feel are transmitted through a rim wrapped in perforated leather. The ride quality is remarkably poised for a 200 miles per hour muscle car. Front buckets trimmed with suede are supportive but could use stiffer side bolsters to resist this car's prodigious cornering loads. Rear passenger heads ride beneath the dot pattern shading of the back glass, but there's adequate room and comfort for two, plus a slim child. Top, in darkness it creeps, enfolding the night in its black wings. Or something. Well, I've been listening to a lot of old Tom Waits records. Tap the SRT button on the dash and the 8.4-inch touchscreen becomes the ultimate gaming console. Track, Sport, Custom, and Default modes let you tune engine output, damper effectiveness, the traction helpers, and transmission and shifter activity. In race options, you can configure launch control and an upshift light. Valet mode allows you to relinquish the car to a parking attendant without fear of catastrophe. In performance pages, you can read instantaneous power, torque, and boost, or conduct a full road test by recording acceleration times, braking distances, and pitches in all 4 directions. There's even an eco mode complete with a green leaf graphic. This is for comic relief. What's most remarkable about this Charger is that it's the complete package, daily commuting comfort combined with berserk special occasion performance, all at a realistic price. Further, it cracks the door to subsequent products, such as a supercharged Viper and a Jeep Grand Cherokee Hellcat. Until GM and Ford chime in with their 700 horsepower sedans, or until the fuel sippers arrive, whichever comes first. The Charger SRT Hellcat is the uncontested king of American Fords or performance. The maddest motor, Chrysler's director of advanced and SRT powertrain, Chris Cowland, led the team that twisted the 6.2-liter V8 Hellcat's tail to 707 horsepower, a record for an American production engine. The Chrysler crew began by upgrading practically all the major components of the Hemi. The cast iron, deep skirt block is thick and webs and enlarged cooling passages. The forged steel crankshaft is induction hardened. Forged steel rods have cracked bearing caps for extra secure clamping. Each forged aluminium piston must withstand more than 10 tons of combustion force. The wrist pins have a diamond-like coating to minimize friction. While the heat-treated aluminium heads lack true hemispherical combustion chambers, they do have twin spark plugs and large, canted valves. There's one 2.14-inch intake valve and one 1.65-inch exhaust valve per cylinder, the latter with sodium-filled stems to dispense heat. IHA Turbo America manufactures the Lisham-type twin-screw supercharger, capable of blowing more than 1,000 cubic feet of air per minute. Maximum boost is 11.6 pounds per square inch, and an electric pump circulates 12 gallons of coolant through the intercoolers and 2 front-mounted heat exchangers every minute. Half-inch fuel lines slake the Hellcat's thirst for premium. At peak power, 8 injectors shower the intake ports with a pint of gas every 7 seconds. There's minimal ruckus from the blower during idle and the cruise modes. Legging the throttle cues a subtle whine accenting a louder intake thrum and a more insistent exhaust beat. No artificial noise is contributed by the audio system. The Hellcat V8 is teamed with an upgraded ZF8 HP 98-speed automatic with paddle shifters. Thanks to the wide ratio spreads and 2 overdrive gears, the Charger SRT achieves 22 miles per gallon in EPA highway tests. A 13 miles per gallon score in city tests drags the combined figure down to 16 miles per gallon, resulting in a $1,700 gas guzzler penalty. Hey, what did you expect? It's a Hellcat, not a miracle worker. Hemi history. 1940 to 45 Chrysler's World War II projects include an experimental V16 and production 18-cylinder radials for aircraft, plus a V12 tank engine, all with hemispherical combustion chambers. 1951 The first firepower Hemi V8 for Chryslers and Chrysler Imperials produces 180 horsepower from 331 cubic inches, topping Cadillac's V8 by 20 horsepower and Oldsmobiles by 45. 1952 Briggs Cunningham's Hemi-powered C4 sports car finishes 4th at Le Mans. 1955 The Chrysler 300 with 2 4-barrel carburetors and 300 horsepower as the first muscle car. 1956 Don Garlitz installs a junkyard Hemi in his slingshot dragster. 1958 Garlitz tops 170 miles per hour with his Swamp Rat Hemi dragster. 1964 A second-generation race Hemi V8 powers Plymouths to the 3 podium spots at the Daytona 500. Garlitz breaks through 200 miles per hour in a quarter mile. 1965 The Summers Brothers Golden Rod, powered by 4 Hemis, runs 409 miles per hour at Bonneville. 1966 A street Hemi rated at 425 horsepower becomes an option in Dodge Coronets and Chargers and Plymouth Belvederes and Satellites. 1967 Richard Petty wins 10 Grand National races in a row with Hemi power. 1968 Don Sherman's father sponsors a Hemi Roadrunner clergy graduation present, further mangling an already twisted psyche. 1970 Buddy Baker runs more than 200 miles per hour on a closed course with his Dodge Charger Daytona stock car. 1971 Garlitz shifts his Hemi rearward after surviving a blown clutch incident in his front engine dragster. 1972 The street Hemi disappears from Dodge and Plymouth option lists, a casualty of rising insurance costs and the arrival of lead-free gasoline. 1991 Artigue sets a 410 miles per hour land speed record at Bonneville with 1 Hemi V8 and two-wheel drive. 1992 Kenny Bernstein, in a Hemi-powered top-fuel dragster, is the first over 300 miles per hour in a quarter mile. 2003 a 5.7-litre Hemi V8 arrives with splayed valves, dual spark plugs, and conventional combustion chambers for Dodge Ram pickups. Use of this engine spreads through Chrysler, Dodge, and Jeep lineups. Output eventually climbs from 345 horses to 470 in a 6.4-litre 391 cubic inch version introduced for 2011 models. 2004 comedian John Reap squanders his 15 minutes of fame as Dodge's That Thing Got a Hemi? Pitchman. 2005 Marcus Braun of Vancouver, British Columbia, wins Chrysler's What Can You Hemi? Contest with a Hemi Fate-powered trike inspired by a big wheel. 2015 The Mexican-made 707 horsepower supercharged and intercooled 6.2-litre Hellcat V8 is the most potent engine ever offered in an American car.